Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Dr. Brad. But before we bring up Dr. Brad to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors. We'd like to thank Money Ripples, owned by Mr. Chris Miles. His organization helps families and their clients create a financial plan and legacy they could be proud of through alternative ways of investing. We'd like to thank Chris and Money Ripples for sponsoring this episode. Now, here he is, Dr. Brad. How you doing, Dr. Brad?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for the invite. I think we're going to have some fun on this.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Brad, first question, sir. What does the word authentic/authenticity mean to you?
I think it infers more than what it really means. And the reality is authentic infers that there is a transparency, a vulnerability with that transparency to allow examination to prove what is being presented to be real, to be true, to be valid, and applicable to whatever the situation is going on.
Love it. Dr. Brad, I love how you said about being real, being true to the situation that is going on. I tell people constantly that I've gone through a lot of ups and downs in my life, highs and lows. I don't hide them. I've had great days. I've had bad days. I've tried to start a podcast, before that didn't go very well. I had 2 episodes and I quit. And now I have an amazing podcast with my awesome producer and my team. And we do a lot of great things, interviewing people like yourself. So I'm very honest. I'm very real. I'm very true to who I am, right, Dr. Brad, and what I've been through. So I love that. Dr. Brad, can you please tell our global audience a little bit more about yourself and the work you currently do now to help people?
Okay. I've been a functional medicine doctor for about 4 decades. Struggled through my own chronic illness from a young child all the way through childhood, early adulthood. I've been full of fungal infections. The world used to spin around me so bad it was hard to stand up. Every time I turned my head, the world spun. I'm really coordinated, really active, really athletic, but the whole world spinning around. It's pretty hard to do all that. And it develops a character issue of concentration that most people don't ever have to deal with just to be able to function in the world. I've been full of fungal infections. I've had Lyme disease. I've had all kinds of things. And now we work with some of the sickest people that there are. People that have been to multiple docs, oftentimes for decades or more, have dropped a fortune in their care, not gotten any help at all. And we got over 90% of those people healthy again.
Dr. Brad, please shed some more light, because you talked about you work with people who are very sick, who have gone to medical doctors or other doctors for decades, spent tons of money and got no type of relief, nowhere with their treatment, and they're still living, unfortunately, right, Dr. Brad, in pain or having a life of discomfort and not having the type of quality of life, right, Dr. Brad, they deserve. How does your organization, how does your treatment or your practice help your clients get a better quality of life?
Real simple. When we're talking about quality of life, I'll give a few different examples. We've worked with people who can barely walk from the bedroom to the bathroom, so you're only talking a few feet. We work with young people in their early 20s, 23 and a half hours in bed a day. That's a farm kid. Just couldn't get out of bed and function. We've worked with people who can't work, can't go to school, can't think, can't communicate. We've worked with a whole 9 yards of that stuff where people have been just totally dysfunctional. It's not that they're just in pain. They can't live, basically. They're bedridden. They're completely incapacitated. And I'll give you this story because this is really typical of what we see. We got a phone call one time. It was from some parents that had a girl that was 5 years old. She had just spent 5.5 days in a research hospital. It was tied to two medical schools, prestigious, known all over the world. 5.5 days in that hospital. She couldn't walk. She couldn't be touched. She just laid in bed and cried while they did tests, scans, and everything. At the end of 5.5 days, they told the parents, we have no idea what's going on. Maybe you should see a rheumatologist. A family member talked to their parents, said, you got to work with my doctor. They called me up. We did a consult. We did a late evaluation, figured out within 2 hours everything that's going on with that girl. The next morning, she was outside of their house, or up out of bed. 3 days later, she's outside. 6 months down the road, she's healthier than she's ever been. She's 1,000 miles away. We never saw her face to face. We did all that evaluation over 1,000 miles away, and that's commonly what we do. So the reason why we have the success that we have, a lot of people talk about root cause issues. We actually have the tools to find them. And we find what the root causes of things are, help people address those, and that's how we rebuild health and life and get them to overcome all of these completely devastating, life-wrecking situations. And a common thing that people say of our care is, they gave me all my life back.
You know, Dr. Brad, I wrote something down about how you have to find the root of the problem. And what is that saying? You know, you have to first diagnose before you can prescribe. And I really love how you said finding the root of the problem and really addressing it. And I even, like you said, you did this, right, Dr. Brad, with a video consultation. You never even saw them face to face, right? So Dr. Brad, really quickly, well, not really quickly, but just, my question is, when it comes to your it factor for your practice and how you all help your patients, what makes you all unique, stand out from the crowd, what would you say that is? I talk about all the time, right, Dr. Brad? In business, if you're blending in and you're not standing out, you're doing it wrong. And at the end of the day, right, Dr. Brad, I feel our it factor is the reason that allows us to stand out, while others who don't know what their it factor is, right, Dr. Brad, continue, unfortunately, to blend in.
Yeah, really, really good question. And the answer on my side is pretty simple. I have always asked the question why. I've got the kind of mind that's principle-based thinking. And I dissect things so I can figure out how they work. When I got into grad school for being a doctor, I was fascinated with things like physiology. I've studied physiology for 40 years now. Most doctors, they only study physiology to pass their boards. They throw their book away and they never look at it again. My own question to the bulk of people doing healthcare is, if you don't know what's going on, how can you help somebody fix it? You have to understand the root issues. I understand you used to play football. You've got to understand the basics to do that. You look at mathematics, you got to understand the basics. I've worked in construction for 50 years. You got to understand the foundational principles on what things are built off of. So I understand physiology to a degree that most people don't understand. And with that, we can analyze all the different functions inside of the body, test them for how they are supposed to function, and find out where they lack. And then we test how to restore those functions. And with that, I'll add this one thing, because you said diagnosis. Most people don't know what a diagnosis is. It's only an insurance code for a doctor to bill insurance. It has nothing to do with what's going on, nothing to do with cause whatsoever. It's an insurance code for them to reduce that symptom, but it has nothing to do with cause. And the diagnostic procedures they use to do it can't find the cause.
Wow. You know what's very interesting? When you said that, I thought about how you go for your car to get a diagnostic test to figure out what is wrong. And that is insane. That makes total sense. Like, it doesn't tell you the root. It just says, hey, we're going to run this little test. And so, and like you said, it's a way of like running something. It's a code. It doesn't tell you like really what it came from, how it happened. You have to do a deeper dive at that point. But again, that's what they call a diagnostic test. They're running something to see, but like you said, overall, it's not going to give you the root or what caused the problem. You have to do more of a deeper dive. Oh, well, we just did that diagnostic. Now it's time to spend an extra $1,000 on this or $5,000 on that. I mean, I have a car, a truck. I know how expensive they can get. But I really appreciate that because it's really interesting, right, Dr. Brad, how you think about things from a holistic perspective. It gives you such a different viewpoint on how things are done in that regard. So, Dr. Brad, I have a question for you. When you think about the work you do, what is it that really, other than, of course, like helping people, which is, of course, a basic standard answer, what is the real mission, the real purpose, or real passion behind all the amazing work you do with your practice and with your clinic?
A real simple answer too. I grew up in a very dysfunctional situation. A lot of people have that. Lord got a hold of me at a young age. He's directed my life and fashioned me into somebody that I never met in my entire life. I never met anybody that's like how he made me. And my whole mission in life is just to be a conduit that he flows through. So it brings our healthcare to a whole different level because he's the one who shows us what's going on. He shows us ways to test it, and he shows us ways to prove out how to fix it and how to bring people back to health. So I'm his vessel that he pours through to meet people and restore health.
You know, Dr. Brad, I'm loving this conversation because I tell people when it comes to our bodies are always going to be the most important item that we need to take care of because it's all we have. You only get one. And it's so important, right, Dr. Brad, to be able to take care of yourself to the highest level in that regard. So, Dr. Brad, let me ask you a question. When you think about the type of work you do and how you help people and how you get people to get out of their own way and kind of, different thought process, mindset, there's a great equation by Jack Canfield. E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. Let's imagine, right, Dr. Brad, that...
So let me interrupt for a second. The first word is evict.
Event.
Event, respond, outcome. Okay,
that's right.
Now I can track you.
Gotcha. Okay, so event, right, Dr. Brad? Let's imagine the event, right, Dr. Brad, is people getting or finding out really dark information or finding out their health is not well. It's an event, right, Dr. Brad, that they can't control. Like your friend told that family of the 5-year-old to contact you. And I love that because it's a great segue to this next question about these are things, right, Dr. Brad, that we can control when it comes to our response, our behavior, our thoughts, our images. So my question, Dr. Brad, is a 3-part question. Question number 1, how do you help your clients when they come to you that have gotten the event was not what they were hoping to get from another doctor or from another, institution, right, medical institution? How do you help them maintain positive behavior so you can do the best that you can, right, Dr. Brad, to get them on track to trying to restore and get them back to a healthier version of themselves?
Okay, that starts in a very simple way. You look at most people's experience with doctors. The doctor never has time to talk to them. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't look at them face to face. They never connect. So we start contrary to that. I have people fill out these diagnostic questionnaires. It takes me quite a while to go through them. Sometimes I got to do a lot of background work with that, so I'm prepared. And we sit down, usually on a video, face to face, because we work with people all over the world. We sit down, video, face to face, and I go through their history to get a historical perspective. We go back generations from where they're at on what built the problems, how they're all interacting, what are the root causes that are expected to be there, how long those take to resolve, and a ballpark price on what that's going to cost. So that's how I start.
I love it. Dr. Brad, I tell people great leaders really excel at 4 key areas, right? Inventing, relating, sense making, and visioning. And relating to people, right, Dr. Brad, is one of the most powerful items or forces I feel that you can bring when you're trying to work with someone, especially, right, Dr. Brad, someone that is in a medical issue, they're in pain. Like I said, Dr. Brad, everybody you see is in intense pain. They have a bad quality of life. They aren't feeling well. They're just not living a type of fulfilled life. So being able to connect with them, right, Dr. Brad, I feel is so important. I'm so glad you said that is the number one thing that you do with your work. That's awesome. Second question, Dr. Brad, is thoughts, okay? So how do you help people, right, that come to you that the event, again, from another doctor, another institution was not good news? How do you help clients or your patients have positive thoughts around working with you to get their life back on track to have a healthy, better quality of life?
Really simple. I introduce them to my foundational principles and my foundational belief, which is all based on the kingdom of God. And I don't force that down anybody's throat. I don't mandate that they have it. I let them know that's where I am coming from. Most people in chronic illness, they have been distanced from everybody they know. Their family has abandoned them. Their relationships, if they're still there, are hanging on by threads because no one sees a gaping wound and they can't understand what's going on. So the psych card comes out, it's all in your head. So you have these people that are devastated in every way possible when you start working with them. You have to give them something that's solid, foundational belief system that can rebuild self-worth, to rebuild all of the things that give a person value and life value. And that's typically where I start. And as I said, I don't cram that down anybody's throat. I'll just introduce that as my own foundational principle. And after, I've been a minister for decades. 30 years of prison ministry. I've been in the streets in Eastern Europe and Russia as the Berlin Wall's coming down. I've been all over the world doing that. You get to understand we're all the same. We're all looking for the same things. And without a foundational, unshakable belief system, people are just tossed around by every wind of thought or whatever's going on out there in the world.
Dr. Brad, I love how you said you have to develop an unshakable mindset so you're not just, cast off in the wind. You're easily to move around, blow around, push around. You're going to just jump on the newest fad, this, that, or the third. And again, ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Brad said, he's not trying to cram or ram anything down your throat. He is just saying, hey, here's what I believe in, and here's what I think will help you. Whether you want to go through this or not, that's up to you. But it's more about, hey, Here's information. Here's what I believe can help. And at that time, Dr. Brad allows people to make their own decisions, which is the last thing, right? Dr. Brad, number 3 is images, right? I tell people, if you're in a struggling moment, thinking about the future or forward thinking about the future is very important to get you out of a tough spot. I tell my clients all the time, nothing lasts forever. Pain, suffering, fulfillment, joy, nothing lasts forever. If you're struggling or having a hard time, I tell my clients, learn how to focus on visualizing or visioning the future and what you want things to be like later on. Because focusing on the past does no good. If you're just sitting in that moment of feeling negative or blue or down, that's no good. So my question is, right, Dr. Brad, for people, again, that come to you after a medical situation, how do you help them maintain positive images, right, Dr. Brad? So they're focusing on and visualizing good things to help them out of the pain or the suffering they may be in at that moment.
Another really simple answer. When Jesus was walking the earth and he came into his hometown when his ministry started, there wasn't any faith for him to do any healing. And he says to the people gathered, surely you'll quote me this verse, physician, heal thyself. I'm one person who's lived the same hell that they've lived. I went for years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for years on end with the whole world spinning around me, being like a drunken sailor with a really wide stance, just trying to stay on my feet. I've been as sick as you can possibly be. And you look at me, I look healthy. My oldest daughter, I hadn't seen her for quite a few years. I went out to go visit them, and she sees me pull up and she goes, Mommy, he's got white hair. Well, I guess he's a grandpa. I guess that's okay. The next thing she said is, Mommy, look at his skin. It looks so healthy. She's 13 years old. Actually, I think she was 11. And that is something that most people don't realize. If you go to a doctor that's sick, coughing, they've got transparent skin, you can see their veins through their skin, they're not multiple colors, they're obese, their body's completely out of shape. Why are you going to ask them for something about health? They don't live it. Mm-hmm. You look at me, it's pretty obvious. I live it.
And you know what, Dr. Brad? That's a great way to end this awesome interview. He lives it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to work with someone, have someone advise you, give you guidance, it's very important that that individual is walking the walk and talking the talk. Again, the actions that a person does is the most important item, because if the actions don't match what they're saying or what they believe in, that's not being authentic. That's being incongruent. And what's going to happen is you're not going to get what I feel the best wisdom, the best advice, or the best knowledge, because that individual is not living an authentic, true life. Very well said, Dr. Brad. Dr. Brad, if people want to get a consultation, we have a huge global audience, which we're very blessed and very proud of. How can our audience, if they're in pain, suffering, how can they connect with you to gain some information for a consultation?
Easiest way is my website. I've got two sites. One is getmewell.net. On that, there's a book about epigenetics that tells you some simple ways to change your lifestyle, to change your genetic expression, change your destiny. So that's at getmewell.net. My website, and there's links to my website. I got a book exposing Lyme and chronic illness. There's links to that on that. That's the easiest way because it's easy to remember. Our website is Healthfully You, HEALTHFULLY, the letter U.com. And on that, there's a link to do consults. You fill out a couple of questionnaires, actually one questionnaire, sign an agreement, send that to me, add some pictures to it, and I dig through it. Once we dig through it, we talk. And we don't, it's not a 5-minute talk. We talk until we address everything that needs to be addressed. So that's one thing that people realize about me. The clock doesn't mean a lot. I don't run my life by a clock. My life works in a different way. And we need to address what's in front of us and finish that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to Dr. Brad. Follow him, check out his website. If you're in chronic pain, if you know someone in chronic pain, please reach out to him for a consultation. Please connect with him. It will be a great thing for you to do. We want to thank our amazing sponsor, Mr. Money Ripples, owned by Mr. Chris Miles. And the authentic tip of this great interview, Dr. Brad said it so beautifully. Work with people that look like, that resemble the type of information, wisdom, and knowledge that you want for yourself. That's very important, because what happens is when you live by that motto, you end up living a much more fulfilled, purpose-driven life. So again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.